we have seen that this regime has been playing to the tunes of Pakistan because Pakistan is the organizer of the regime change operation with the support of external powers.
I believe that these elections are like very short-term and minor phenomenon in what's unfolding in Bangladesh from a long-standing view. And from a long-standing view, what's happening in Bangladesh is a massive, deep-rooted Islamist radicalization of Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is actually heading towards the Afghanistan way.
Let's now go across to our guests. Joining me on India Connect today is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian diplomat. She's been India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Also joining me on the show is Dr. Abhinav Pandya. He's the CEO of Usanas Foundation and also an author. Thanks very much to both my guests. Ambassador Veena Sikri, let me come to you, ma'am. Of course, you understand the India-Bangladesh dynamics better than most others. How should India view these latest provocations from Muhammad Yunus, especially the way in which Dhaka is rolling out the red carpet for Zakir Naik and Hafiz Saeed's close associate?
Well, I think it is true that ever since the regime change operation last July, August, when when in a very well planned manner, Sheikh Hasina was ousted from power in Bangladesh, and she's been in Delhi ever since. Ever since we have seen that the regime in Bangladesh, it's an interim regime, but it's not constitutional, it's not legitimate because they were sworn in under the constitution of Bangladesh, but the Bangladesh constitution has no provision for an interim regime. So we have seen that this regime has been playing to the tunes of Pakistan because Pakistan is the organizer of the regime change operation with the support of external powers. So the Pakistan has been the conduit working with the Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh. It is the Jamaat-e-Islami, and you must remember that these what I've mentioned, Pakistan, Jamaat-e-Islami, the Razakars, the external powers like USA, they were the ones who were on the losing side in 1971 when the liberation of Bangladesh took place. We had exactly the situation where all the people of Bangladesh were determined to fight against the oppression, the genocide, the authoritarian rule by Pakistan. And so the liberation of Bangladesh took place. But now, after many other further attempts, it is the reverse which has happened. And it seems that Pakistan and the external powers are determined to bring the Jamaat-e-Islami to power. But over the last year, 15 months, we've seen that there is not much response from the people of Bangladesh. And they have shown that they actually value the liberation war and what it stood for: democracy, secularism, nationalism, social justice. All these are important values for the people of Bangladesh, and they don't we have not seen any increase in the popularity of the Jamaat-e-Islami over the last year and 15 months. And now I think these two particular provocations that you've spoken about, the visit of Zakir Naik and the visit of the Aide person from Pakistan who's a close associate of the Lashkar-e-Taiba leaders, uh, these are attempts to beat up the religious fervor, to bring up the religious fervor of the people, entice them into getting radicalized, and so to support the Jamaat-e-Islami in what is expected to be elections very soon. Now, I think we must remember that Zakir Naik was actually banned by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government. And he was banned because on the 1st of July 2016, the worst ever terrorist attack took place in Bangladesh, the Holy Artisan Bakery attack. And the people who were responsible for those, the terrorists who were responsible for those attacks, admitted that they had been radicalized by Zakir Naik. And so Prime Minister Hasina at that time, she banned his visit. And I think similarly, during the 15 years of Sheikh Hasina's rule between 2009 and 2024, we saw her keeping a very tight control on all radicalized groups, all radicalized individuals. She took very strong action against them, didn't allow them to spread their activities. But now that she's not been there and there is an imminent election, which we hope will take place, this is the attempt being made now to whip up fervor in favor of Jamaat-e-Islami and all radicalized thought. Now, the government of India has been very restrained in its response to the events in Bangladesh. We have exercised, I may call, as strategic restraint because we have, in fact, expressed our willingness to work with the interim regime. We said we want to continue the cooperation, we want to develop the cooperation, and we've really shown every sign that we want to do it. In fact, the trade is still ongoing. But from the side of the Bangladesh government, we have received nothing but vitriol and negative assessments of India. And in fact, as we know that even in the last 18 months, a tremendous attack on the minorities, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the
Yes.
Christians, and also the Sufis and Ahmadiyas. Even Muslim minorities like Sufis and Ahmadis have come under tremendous attack. But whenever Muhammad Yunus has been questioned about it, most recently when he was in New York a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, he just says, "Oh, this is fake news from India." So he has been completely dismissive, and he's not been willing to accept even the kind of religious discrimination, the kind of religious hostility being hurled against the minorities in Bangladesh from all sides. And in fact, they have made it very clear that they want the minorities to leave Bangladesh. The Muslim and the non-Muslim minorities. So this is, part of the effort to bring the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Wahhabi Salafist government to power. I think government of India has been very careful. Our borders are very carefully sealed. We have been very careful even in issuing visas for Bangladesh. And I think this strategic restraint will continue, but we are keeping a very close watch on the situation. And I think our focus, which we have stated many times, our government has been absolutely emphatic and unequivocal in stating that the only answer is to have free, fair, credible, and inclusive elections in Bangladesh. There is no question of banning something, the activities of Awami League or any of the other major political parties. But because the newly created, like the NCP, the so-called Students' Party, we know it was not a students' uprising. We know it was not a spontaneous uprising. Even the political party created by them, called the NCP, National Citizen Party, has no support. There are no students with them. These are all Islami Chhatra Shibir people. So there's no support for them. But still, they're trying to show as though they have some kind of support. And because that popular support is not forthcoming, so you're seeing all these things. I think one of the things government of India should certainly do while Zakir Naik is in Bangladesh is to ask for his extradition. We have been asking the government of Malaysia for his extradition, and now if he's visiting Bangladesh, then certainly his extradition should be asked for from there as well. So I think there are a
Okay.
number of steps government of India has in mind, and they are going to work on them at the right time.
Okay, India is definitely keeping a close watch on the developments in Bangladesh. Dr. Abhinav Pandya, let me bring you into the conversation. Do these developments suggest an increasing radicalization of Bangladesh? And how should India respond to these provocations? It is a diplomatic tightrope walk, isn't it? Ambassador Sikri talked about how India has shown great strategic restraint, but at the same time, these are matters of both concern and annoyance to India.
Uh, Thank you very much. Ambassador Sikri made some very insightful remarks about the situation in Bangladesh, and she highlighted the complications which are emerging there. And yes, I agree with most of them. But I would like to add the fact that I think this is a new Bangladesh, and these are the new realities which we must accept. I mean, the times of Sheikh Hasina are gone, and now the external forces working in Bangladesh are actually becoming bigger than the internal factors. And external forces, by that I mean Pakistan and some of its masters sitting in the West. And you can see, you mentioned about radicalization. Yes, of course, Bangladeshi society and the state systems are going through massive radicalization. You have Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a big problematic force out there. Jamaat-e-Islami is ISI's direct proxy in Bangladesh. And here I would like to highlight the fact that Pakistan is trying to create a connect between the Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh and also its extensions in Jammu and Kashmir. Recently, we have come to observe that some journalists and some separatist entities from Jammu and Kashmir going to Turkey, and there they are running organizations in which cadres from Islamic Chhatra Shivir are visiting, and they are working there, they are getting trained there. Besides that, you have all kinds of Pakistani terror groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba. They have made massive inroads in Bangladesh. So that is also a major matter of concern, and I think that this is a serious problem that they have designed, particularly on the northeastern parts of India, and they are trying to repeat that Kashmir playbook. In fact, you come to know that the kind some sort of terror funding mechanisms which they used in Kashmir, like for example generating terror funds through sending students and kith and kin of the separatists to MBBS and engineering courses in Pakistan. They've launched similar kind of schemes in Bangladesh also. So yes, I certainly agree that Bangladesh is going through radicalization at different levels. You have organizations like Jamaat-e-Islami, terror groups like Lashkar-e-Jaish making inroads. Then you have domestic groups like Ansarullah, Bangla, also the local outfits and extensions of Islamic State. Then I think that radicalization is also happening at the grassroots level. Yes, I agree that Sheikh Hasina's party still has some robust support base, and people love this freedom movement, the liberation which they got in 1971. But still, I mean, we cannot completely ignore the fact that radicalization is happening at the grassroots level also. So I think, let me be very blunt. I'm more of a security analyst. I guess we are in for some tough time on the Bangladesh frontier, and I guess India has to respond. So far, as Ambassador rightly pointed out, that India has shown very strong and I would say very wisely some sort of strategic restraint. We are all waiting for the elections, but my personal observation is that the things or the forces operating in Bangladesh, particularly the external forces, they are bigger than the purely domestic events and issues like elections. I mean, even if elections happen, let's say if the BNP comes, I guess Pakistan's long-term designs, or even for that matter, China's designs, or let's say Western players' designs, they're not going to change. And for Pakistan, it will be a new battleground to fight its war against India, a new laboratory to conduct all kinds of its anti-India experiments. And if you look at Pakistan's, the ISI's history, Major General Robert Kotham, the founder of ISI, back in 1947, he highlighted that Pakistan needs to utilize India's major regional, religious, and linguistic fault lines. And in that framework, the Northeast was always there. Northeast was always considered a major area to create disturbances and disruptions in India. And it's not just happening in Bangladesh, even within India. If you see what's happening around the chicken neck corridor, you have a sort of a demographic, I would say, encirclement of the chicken neck corridor. Also, you have a lot of madrasas and really extremist seminaries coming on the Nepalese border with the support of Turkish and Qatari money. So there also Pakistan has a deep rooted strategic footprint. And with this Yunus regime in Bangladesh, I'm quite sure that most of these extremist entities will be flooded into the northeastern region of India, and that is certainly going to create a problem for India. India's response, I guess, at some stage India will have to show a very strong force posture. Now, whether it does it now or after the elections, it is just a matter of time. But we won't be able to avoid that.
Okay, so I think there is clarity that we see growing radicalization in Bangladesh, and the evolving situation does present a security headache for India. Let me go back to Ambassador Veena Sikri at this point. Ma'am, when we talk about the provocations that have emerged from Dhaka in recent times, it's not just the red carpet that's being rolled out for Zakir Naik and Hafiz Saeed's close associate, but just last week, Muhammad Yunus presents to a Pakistani general a map of Bangladesh that includes India's northeast. And, earlier this year, when he visited China, he referred to the northeast, eastern part of India as being a landlocked region and practically invited China into India's strategic backyard. Now, these kind of provocations, these repeated statements, which clearly form a pattern, are nothing but a direct challenge to India's sovereignty. Would you agree? What kind of a message do you believe India needs to send out at this point in time to Muhammad Yunus?
Well, definitely these statements are deliberately provocative. There is no doubt that these statements are being made deliberately. This kind of gifting of the book is being done deliberately. And if you tell them, they'll say, "Oh no, no, it's only a stylized, artistic kind of thing, etc., etc." But we do know that even in April itself, while Muhammad Yunus, I think, was in Beijing, then there was a Pehla Baishakh celebration in the university, and there again, somebody of the members there had shown a map with parts of northeast in Bangladesh, Greater Bangladesh as they call it. And some people very close to the government have been tweeting about it. Of course, when we raised the objection, the tweets were removed. So these are deliberately provocative statements, and I can tell you where I think they are targeted. That they are targeted at encouraging the Northeast Indian insurgent groups to come back to Bangladesh. Now, for all these activities that we've been talking about, for me, this is a lot of deja vu because when I was ambassador, high commissioner in Bangladesh, and the prime minister was Begum Khalida Zia, Pakistan was very close to that government, and Jamaat-e-Islami was part of that government.
But Dr. Abhinav Pandya, your take, do you agree with what Ambassador Sikri has just pointed out? And really, what do you make of the provocative statements and the cartographic aggression that we are really seeing on part of Muhammad Yunus?
Bangladesh, as attempt to create a fertile ground for the Northeast Indian insurgent groups. Definitely, it has happened in the past, and certainly within, I would say, with an inimical regime sitting in Bangladesh, this is likely to increase in the future. Okay? And once these groups are rightly placed there, that it will be much easier for them to operate in India. Also, there will be some kind of a collusion with the Islamist terrorist groups like Jaish and Lashkar. So the synergy can be very dangerous for us. Secondly, coming to these provocative statements, well, I think that vocation is certainly one part of it, but I guess Bangladesh is also trying to sell itself to powers like China. That see how useful we are. If you want to, we are out for sale. You can take our services. And we can be very critical to your ambitions if you really want to do something nasty to India or any kind of anti-India sabotage. We can be very helpful. So that way, Bangladesh is also highlighting its utility to some of these powers which are against India, let's say China, and maybe they are doing it with the Americans also. Besides, and this is happening because they themselves, at least some of the radical groups like Jamaat-e-Islami and all, they have nurtured such anti-India designs for long. Jamaat-e-Islami as an organization fought alongside Pakistani army against the Indian army and the Mukti Bahini in 1971. So those wounds are still continuing. They have that sense of humiliation, sense of pain continuing, that that they were defeated by the Indian army and this country got liberation. So they want to just to rewrite the history. What do you call it? They want to be avenged. Some of the hardcore Jamaat-e-Islami war of prisoners, which were declared the war criminals, they were functioning very nicely in America, and they were associated with some of the Islamist organizations like ICNA and CARE, and they were actively involved with the Kashmiri separatists and the ISI lobbyists, in all kinds of anti-India activities. So you see this hatred and this anti-India, I would say, sentiment, planning, conspiracy in the Jamaat setup for a very, very long time. And with the Yunus regime in power, I think we should be very firm in our assessment that these are not just provocative statements. There is much more than what meets the eye, and there is a lot of substance to that. And provided if they have the right chance, opportunity, and resources, and right kind of friends, they are most likely to implement all these things.
Okay. Ambassador Sikri, I'll give you the last word. You said earlier that, we need to see free and fair elections in Bangladesh. And frankly, Muhammad Yunus has also been criticized for delaying these elections for as long as that he has. But the question is, given the circumstances that still prevail in that country, Bangladesh as a society is yet to even stabilize after all the anarchy and mayhem that we saw during Sheikh Hasina's ouster. And with radical forces gaining ground, do you believe that the situation is really, conducive for free and fair elections? Can we expect that?
Well, that is what has to happen. Actually, these radical forces are gaining ground, are being given the space. We have to really recognize that. It's not that they're gaining ground. They've always been there. They've always tried to exert themselves. Sheikh Hasina kept them very much in control. And now they're trying to, they've been let loose, as it were, and they've been given a lot of space. But the demand for elections is very, very strong. This is not just me saying it sitting outside Bangladesh. No, it's the people in Bangladesh themselves, including the BNP, who have been insisting. Muhammad Yunus was very dismissive about the election. Oh, we'll see next year. First, we want to do reforms, etc., etc. But he got a very sharp rebuke from the political parties, from the people, from the army, and so he is called for the elections in February. But there's a great deal of skepticism whether he'll actually hold the elections. And if the support for Jamaat-e-Islami does not take a sharp upswing, and that's why all these, inviting Zakir Naik and the Ahle Hadith leaders and so on. And let us see. But there is skepticism on whether the election will win. But we have to, the world community, the people of Bangladesh, everybody must put sharp focus on elections. Otherwise, this instability will continue and it will be dangerous. It'll be much more dangerous if elections are not held. There must be free, fair, credible, and inclusive elections. Everybody should be allowed to take part, and there should be international observers to ensure that they're free and fair. And whoever wins, fine. We will deal with that person, whoever it is. So, with that, I thank you. I have to rush for another
Sure,
program.
sure. Ambassador Sikri, thank you so much for that. Dr. Pandya, very quickly, of course, we'll let Ambassador Sikri go, but Dr. Pandya, very quickly, your thoughts on what kind of an election we can really expect in Bangladesh. It's interesting if you draw a comparison between Nepal and Bangladesh. Nepal too recently witnessed, a violent ouster of its government, but the interim head has set a 6-month timeline for the next set of elections. Compare that to Bangladesh, which saw the ouster of its government and prime minister more than a year ago. And at the same time, do you believe that all political parties in the country will really have a fair chance? For instance, does Sheikh Hasina's party really, is it even in the fray, do you think, in the upcoming elections?
Well, I don't think that there is any chance for Sheikh Hasina's party because in these elections, Pakistan will have a very, very strong footprint and very decisive say. They will be interfering at all levels and they'll make sure that their proxies or their friends come to power. So definitely, Jamaat-e-Islami will be one of the most crucial players in these elections, and because of that, I guess we may likely witness some sort of violence against the minorities and Sheikh Hasina's party cadres also. But even if it's not a massive countrywide violence, and even if the elections go peaceful, the regime which will be coming to power, that will be very pro-Pakistan because Pakistan certainly has designs to fulfill in Bangladesh. It has an agenda. And even if BNP comes for that matter, or let's say, if Jamaat has a strong sway, like in Pakistan's polity after the elections, it'll be Pakistan. I mean, these are just faces, these are proxies, it'll be a Pakistan's battleground against India. I know that many Indian diplomats and many Indian experts are keeping their hopes alive, and they argue that India should, or in fact, India has opened a channel with the BNP's Khalida Zia. But from their side, if I look at it, I guess any kind of dialogue with India is most likely going to be a very tactical venture, for short term and for for very, I would say, mutually convenient gains. But that is not going to alter the deep, long-standing, and I would say long-running anti-India Pakistan's designs and the Islamist structures and the extremist ideology, which is fundamentally altering the character of the Bangladeshi society and the state. So India should think in those terms. I mean, the elections are very temporary, short-term phenomenon. And I agree with you. See, most of these things are generally handled by the intelligence agencies. That too in a country like India, and the intelligence agencies are manned by bureaucrats. Even the diplomatic cadres are generally manned by bureaucrats, and they have a compulsion to come out with immediate solutions for problems. And so they generally tend to look at these things in terms of elections and the results of the consequences of the elections. We have done that in Kashmir. But as an outsider, since I'm not the part of the formal bureaucracy, I can have a more objective and a long-standing view of the situation. I believe that these elections are like very short-term and minor phenomenon in what's unfolding in Bangladesh from a long-standing view. And from a long-standing view, what's happening in Bangladesh is a massive, deep-rooted Islamist radicalization of Bangladesh. And Bangladesh is actually heading towards the Afghanistan way. You'll have a very religiously extremist entities controlling the government, controlling the society, and certainly their entire agenda will be very strongly anti-India, anti-Hindu. So I mean, these are blunt facts, these are harsh realities. But since it's happening in our neighbor, so we need to be
Yeah.
prepared for that.
It does sound quite alarming, but at the same time, these are facts that cannot be ignored. India certainly has a very, very difficult neighborhood. Whichever way this election goes, it's not looking very good for India, and those security concerns will remain, given, as you said, the growing Islamist radicalization that we do see in our neighborhood. On that note, Dr. Abhinav Pandya and Ambassador Veena Sikri, thank you to both of you for joining me.